Right, so here's another concept. How much ground control do you need to stop your models from wavering? It's a difficult one to understand, but essentially, if you have a model without any ground control, it will be not unlike a book that you've picked up off the table. The table's down here, and you've picked that book up, and it might have some distortion in it because it's got a lack of control. It's got an unknown Z off the table. Its X, Y in plan is probably not too bad because it'll at least be orientated north south with your GPS. But basically that book is floating in space. Now, if you we'll deal with a line to begin with. So you have a line that you want to put into control. We've already had a previous conversation where we said we needed two ground control points. But what if I put in two ground control points like this? The interesting part here is that the model will call this a point of fixity. So it will insist that all of the photogrammetry model has to go through that point. And as long as you're reasonably close to those points of control, the model will be quite good. But there is always going to be a small amount of waver in your model. So I'm going to just kind of draw on this. So you might have a very small amount of waver. So that model might go through those 2 points. But you can see over here, we don't have any ground control. So beyond this point here, there's a very real risk that actually your model can deviate and do something very, very strange. And this is the beginning of what I call spaghettification. So if you're flying very, very close to the ground, so let's say that your drone in this instance is flying quite close to the ground, and maybe you're only, I don't know, 25 meters above the ground, and for some reason you've chosen to put your ground control points at 500 meters. The interesting part here is that you can go in and put a couple of bits of ground control, but there is a very real possibility that between these two initial survey points, you may get a sag, and the sag will, in this instance, throw the data up for the next section, and then it has to come through that point of fixity, and then it would throw it south away. So you end up with what I call basically an uncontrolled wave that can build into having a very significant variation, usually in Z. And what happens? You end up with a lack of control. So, first rule of thumb is always to take your ground control and put it at the extents of where your work is going to be, and make sure that everything in between there is at least controlled. Because without control in between there, you might have a dishing or a doming, or it may just kind of wander a little bit. So that's a fun rule of thumb to think about.